Unfiltered Trainer podcast. I am your host, Gina, aka Gina Marie Fit. And y'all, I feel like I say it every single week, but what a wild ride life has been. I have been silently grinding on a new project, and it officially has come to fruition. Your girl is officially the first assistant health and fitness coach for Project Breakthrough. I literally could cry saying that. So something I wanted to do was get back into online coaching over the last 6 months as I've been trying to recover from this brain injury. It has been very evident the more I can stay home and be in a quiet environment, the better my rehab and recovery goes. And so I want to spend more time at home, and I knew in order to do that, I had to add an online component to my training. And so if you guys have been around for a long time, you know that literally 10 years ago, I was an online health and fitness coach and a group fitness instructor to start before I ended up opening up my own LLC, expanding my certifications, creating my website, and just grinding into what is now an online social media platform on every single platform possible. And so I'm really excited because I have been watching one of the co-owners, Allie, for literally years. And she is somebody that has always inspired me because she's just always been her authentic self. And it's so refreshing to see in the fitness space. And then when she started dating Justin, there was this change about her. You could just really see that for what seemed like for the first time in a while, as somebody looking on, she was truly getting to embrace who she was. And they created this company called Project Breakthrough. And when they had posted that they were looking for an assistant coach, I'll never forget that night. I had insomnia. I had one of the worst headaches ever. And I just happened to see the post in the middle of the night. And I was like, oh my God, if this is the reason why I couldn't sleep, thank you, thank you, thank you. I immediately applied. And then I heard back and they were super sweet. And they were like, you absolutely crushed your application. We want to hop on a call. And I was so grateful because they hopped on a call at 8:00 at night and did my interview after we held a meet and greet at the studio. And then we had to put up the sign, and it was 8 p.m. And I hopped on that FaceTime and we did my interview. And the next day I sent my client testimonials and I found out that I was chosen. And you want to be cool. You're meeting people that you've followed for forever for the first time, and you want to just be calm. But I literally was geeking the hell out. When I got off that call and they told me I was chosen out of everybody, oh my God, I lost it in the best possible way. I was so freaking excited. I was just dancing around my apartment, it was validating for me. And I share that story today because today's episode is about imposter syndrome. And I shared that specific story because I initially didn't think I was good enough. And when you see their following and the impact they're making, it's incredible. And I, for the first time in a while, felt like I belonged. I felt like I was on a team again. And it was validating for me because here are two incredibly successful business people. And they were like, okay, she's the girl. That's going to be our partner. That's who we're going to work with. And it just really put into perspective for me all of the hard work, determination, the resilience, especially these last 6 months. I've tried to film Living Life with a TBI, the podcast, twice now, and I cannot get through the episode without losing it. I truly break down and cry because it is so real. I am in the thick of this situation. Today, as I film this podcast, I have had a horrendous day because my brain, my head is just throbbing. And I literally have had to convince myself to do every single thing I had to do today, including this podcast, because I want to stay on track. and it's miserable, but it would have been 10 times worse had I not been working from home. And so, as hard as this is, it's a lot more tolerable if I can be at home. And so, as I'm going through this podcast, and I've tried to film it a couple times now, it's just, it's so hard, y'all. It's so hard to tell people like the parts of this story I don't share publicly yet. It's hard as I have these episodes or these issues, or if I'm in a social setting or a loud environment and I'm overstimulated, just how backwards I can be. And I just don't like it. I don't like letting people see or know yet just how life altering this has been. And I know like people look at you and they just think, oh, like, oh, she's fine. If you literally spent a day with me and saw what my life has been like living like this, you would get it. And so today was one of those days where I actually woke up because the pressure in my head was so high, and I have things I'm supposed to look for. And if those things occur, then I have to go to the hospital. And so as the day was progressing, I kept wondering, like, okay, like, is this going to be the day I have to go? Was not subsiding. And then I took the medicine. And so, I just powered through the boot camp, and then I'm filming the podcast, and there are certain things that just have to get done. But I'm just grateful that, okay, we made it through another tough day. And so that's one more day closer to hopefully the day that I don't have to live my life like this. And it's hard because this makes me feel as if I'm unworthy because I'm different. And it's so refreshing to be partnered with two people that are so supportive. Like every single week I've gotten on a call with Justin and we've gone over things. Today we're going over social media, and it's just refreshing that they want to help me get better and they want me to be the best coach I can be. And they genuinely are investing their time and helping me grow so that I can make an impact with their clients. And so today we're going to talk about imposter syndrome. I titled it specifically From Imposter to Empowered, Embracing You. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what is imposter syndrome, where does it come from, the types of imposter syndrome, and then how can you overcome it to embrace all that you are, all that you've been through, so you can be your most empowered self. So today, y'all, we're going to go on a journey together. Imposter syndrome truly is a psychological phenomenon where you feel as if you are a fraud, as if you do not belong. If you've ever felt like you were in a situation, you're like, oh my God, when are they going to realize I don't belong? Or why did they hire me? Or if you're in a position where you often have thoughts that cross your mind, that it's almost like that inner monologue that you have with yourself, that you have anxieties, you feel deficient, you feel as though you are less than. Imposter syndrome is that feeling. It is that thought pattern. It is that process. And it truly can do significant damage to somebody because that anxiety, that inherent instability, it truly can prevent you from being successful, prevent you from progressing in leadership. It truly can halt your ability to make progress. And so you can really categorize it by it's this condition of this constant feeling of being anxious, not experiencing success internally, even if you are high performing, even if you are an overachiever. This condition results in people feeling like a fraud or a phony, and as a result, they doubt their abilities. And so when somebody is dealing with imposter syndrome, they don't feel confident or competent. They struggle to achieve their goals. They will find like no joy in their success. Even if they've accomplished their goals or finished a project, they don't have joy in it because they constantly feel inadequate or fraudulent. It is one thing to be humble and have humility, but it's another to every single time you do something, question if you belong, question the product. Imposter syndrome truly can make you feel like time is fleeting because you have this constant pressure, you're putting on this act, and then you just start to wonder how much longer can you keep this facade up. And a lot of high achievers, my little baddie overachiever friends, reach a point in their career where they feel like they are unable to keep going. And this was me last year. And so something I haven't talked about is last year, around July, August, when I was really like in the darkest of my depression, and then the car accident happened. Like, you literally could not have that could not have happened at a worse time last year, because I was already struggling so much with my anxiety and depression. But I actually had been having conversations with one of my close friends because I had developed panic attacks, and I truly didn't know how much longer I could keep going. And I was really struggling with imposter syndrome because I couldn't figure out why I couldn't make my life work. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get along with people in my environment. I couldn't figure out why I had this literal, the anxiety was so bad I would not sleep. And then I knew, on Sunday, I truly would freak out because I'd have to face my week in these toxic situations, and I literally would just have to contemplate and talk myself up. I literally had to hype myself up to go to work because I just didn't feel like I belonged anymore. And I knew that my time had come to an end, and I knew I needed to do more. But because the situations I was in were going south so fast, it literally impeded me from being able to take the next step I knew I needed to take. I knew I needed to quit. I knew I needed to get a new job. I knew I didn't deserve this crazy pay cut our healthcare job had done. I was literally living paycheck to paycheck, working 7 days a week, working as many hours as I could because I didn't know when the next ball was going to drop. I didn't know what else was coming my way. And so people don't realize that a lot of people are suffering from imposter syndrome because no one wants to admit it out loud. I was just becoming resentful last year, I don't want to tell anybody that I felt like I no longer belonged where I was at. And I also, financial insecurity, didn't want to quit before I found a new job. And so it was week 3, week 4 of having my TBI. I was at home and I could not hold my head up. My neck was so weak, something that I don't even know if I've ever shared this, but all of the bones in my cervical spine are not where they're supposed to be. That's how hard I got hit in the accident. And so when I would have to sit up for long periods of time, my neck would get fatigued and my head felt like 100 pounds. And so when I would finish whatever thing I had to do that day, how many patients I had to see, I would have to come home and support my head with pillows, and I would just lay there. I mean, it was literally light out, and I laid there and stayed there until the next day. And I can't tell you how many days I was in that position. And I just remember laying there thinking, why am I alive? After hearing the severity of the accident, there's a lot that is missing. And I was out of it for part of the accident when I lost consciousness for a period of time. And so when it was explained to me by the neurologist, the severity of the accident and that I was honestly walking away from something I shouldn't have walked away from, I was laying there and I was thinking to myself, kind of just praying, if I'm still alive, why am I here? And I was trying to figure out why I was given a second chance, because I was so depressed last year that accident could have killed me. And honestly, I would have not batted an eye because I was just struggling so much last year. And so when that accident happened and I did get to walk away from something I shouldn't have, about 3-4 weeks in, I remember I was laying there and I had this notebook I had bought at Target. And I was writing down ideas for this podcast, actually. I just remember thinking to myself, Gina, you are still alive. And there's a reason you are still alive. We have to figure out what that reason is. And so I knew that the podcast had to happen. I don't know what it was about that scenario, but I was like, you have to do this podcast. And I just remember laying there thinking how miserable I was, and then going to these jobs and just being so unhappy, even though everybody was so sweet, so supportive. Like, I am so grateful for everybody in my life at that time because everybody was so nice and understanding, and like people stepped in when I couldn't do things. And between every class I was teaching, I was in the bathroom vomiting. Like, fun fact, I literally threw up for months. The loud noises, the lights, the, overstimulation, that was like throwing me into a tailspin. And so I was like really sick and just not performing to the best of my ability. And I'm very grateful everybody that was in my life at that time for being so supportive of a scenario that was, easily something that like I probably should not have been in. And I just remember thinking like, okay, this isn't for you anymore. So why don't we figure out what it is you do want? And I really sat with myself and wrote down, what did I want? If I was going to be alive, what could I do differently? How could I make more of an impact? How could I make more of an income? And how could I fall in love with my life again? And so that is where this turning point happened, and where all of these little steps that I was silently doing, applying to jobs, taking opportunities, taking partnerships, learning how to edit, podcast equipment, all of this stuff happened in this like curled up ball on the couch. And it really resonated with me. I had a lot of time to work on myself, a lot of introspection, a lot of quiet hours. And it made me realize, like, when you ask yourself, what causes imposter syndrome? It's a cognitive distortion, but it comes from people doubting their skills and accomplishments, which comes from circumstances in your life. So toxic work environments, family environments, social pressures, this sense of belonging. I did not feel like I belonged anywhere last year. I truly felt out of place. I felt like I was living a facade. I felt like I was tiptoeing around people and trying way harder than I wanted to try to be liked. And that's where this comes from. Imposter syndrome comes from your environment, especially like for me, like growing up with very high standards, with people that like inspired me to want to achieve the most, being, there's a lot of like what I would say criticism in the best possible way of just being pushed to achieve more, because it was very noticeable early on that, we were very high achieving children, and that was just the beginning of what my siblings and I would be able to accomplish. And then you have your social pressures, the importance of being a part of a social circle or a group and wanting that approval and wanting to seem worthy and needing that external validation. And then you add on this constant sense of belonging that we all strive for. There's nothing worse than the fear of being found out and being outcasted. Like, this literally goes back to grade school for me. Being the kid from the broken home, being the kid that was growing up in a trailer park, being the kid who came from a abusive household from their biological mother, like, I always felt like an outsider. I always felt like I had to fake it to make it, honestly. If people knew, and once people knew, I feel like I was definitely outcasted. Being the first family that was divorced at that age, like, there are so many things from my young childhood that sense of belonging that I have strived for my entire life clearly has been defined from. And it's part of why my imposter syndrome was so intense at one point in my life, because the reality is people want to belong. And oftentimes, people, if they're different, will be excluded from groups because of language barriers, ethnicity, their gender, their socioeconomic status, religion, physical appearance, or learning differences. These things fuel imposter phenomenon. They fuel imposter syndrome because those are things that sadly people will ostracize you for. And that sense of not belonging is something that becomes so persistent that it eats away at you. Another one is personality. Some personality types are actually linked to having more of like internalized feelings of failure, pressure, doubt. I'm one of these people that is so like focused on work that like I can just work and work and work and it doesn't even bother me. Like it really just like I could just keep going and never stop. It's that constant need to achieve and the effects of imposter syndrome. Truly, that feeling of anxiety and inadequacy can literally lead to significant challenges, lack of opportunity. It can prevent you from being your most authentic, genuine self because you're too afraid to like let your like true personality shine. And as a result, the people that are like this, like myself and maybe you, may limit seeking out activities and opportunities that would enable them to embrace their full potential because that internal struggle is so intense. And sadly, people in these categories can tend to deal with a lot of frustration, a lot of depression, obviously lacking of self-confidence and shame because of the feelings they feel. So if you're resonating with what I've said, there's actually subset types of imposter syndrome. So we're going to go over 5 types of imposter syndrome, which will help you kind of figure out what category you're in, which will enable us to have tangible tools and resources to overcome them. So this is number 1, and this is your girl, the perfectionist. Perfectionism and imposter syndrome literally go hand in hand. It is a toxic relationship because perfectionists love to set excessively high goals for themselves. And when they fail to reach a goal, baby, the self-doubt, the worry, Lord have mercy, will you be derailed? And this is something that we tend to be control freaks. We are the person in the group project doing the whole project because we want it done right. And we want it done well, and we don't trust people to do things, let's be honest. And so if you've ever set out for a goal and fallen short and then blamed yourself for not being enough, this is you. And if you feel like your work must be 100% perfect 100% of the time, this is you, baddie. For this type, success is sadly rarely satisfying because we believe we always could have done better, we could have done more, which is obviously not productive and not healthy. So for my little friends in this category, learn to take your mistakes in stride and learn to view it as a natural part of the progress. It's a great thing to push yourself, but push yourself when you're ready. The truth is, there is never a perfect time. You're never going to be 100%. You're never going to be flawless. You have to learn that done is better than perfect for yourself and your sanity. The second one is the super person, the superman, the superwoman. Those who are in this category are convinced that they're phonies amongst their colleagues. As a result, they will push themselves to work harder to measure up to the other standards of those around them. And sadly, because of this, they will overwork themselves, which will be detrimental to their mental health and their relationships with others. And so if you've ever stayed late at the office than the rest of the people around you, even past the point that you've completed your daily work assignments, this is you. If you get stressed out when you're not working and you find downtime wasteful, this is you. If you feel like you've left your hobbies, the things that you're passionate about, let it just go by the wayside because you sacrificed it for work, this is you. This type of imposter syndrome tends to be workaholics. They become addicted to the validation that comes from their work, the people around them, and the work itself. And so if you're in this category, you really have to train yourself away from external validation. And this is something I will preach until my dying day. You must, capital M-U-S-T, become whole on your own. The reality of life is that time is fleeting. You don't know who's going to be there, what's coming your way, or what you must be faced with. And my accident taught me this. If you are not whole on your own and your worth and your value is synonymous with somebody or something, and your life gets flipped upside down and that thing is gone, good luck trying to survive, honestly. You will sadly struggle. And it's sad. It truly is sad that people need external validation from others to feel whole and worthy. Because what happens is when projects go awry or those people leave your life or become overly critical, it's no longer you're going to see it as constructive criticism. You will see it as a detrimental tool that ends up being what is your demise. It'll be utilized in the wrong way. And so you really need to become attuned to your internal validation, find that inner confidence, and truly find your own measure of value and worth through your own standards, so that when those people come into your life or when you get these opportunities, you can fully embrace them and the caliber and quality of your life will be elevated because your shoulders will be back, your head will be held high, and then you can tap into those other reserves, those other talents, those experiences, and your relationships will prosper. Number 3 is considered like a natural genius. And so this one is for the types of people whose confidence has to be synonymous with their ability to learn and understand things the first time. And so if you're somebody that has to get things right the first time, you want to master things, if you're not perfect at something, you feel shame, these types of imposter syndrome people, their internal bar is set unrealistic. It's so impossibly high, just like perfectionists. And so these people, they don't judge themselves based on ridiculous expectations. They also judge themselves based on getting things right the first time. If you're somebody that's used to excelling without much effort, this is you. If you are somebody that has gotten straight A's or gold stars in everything you do, this is you. If you were told that you were the smart one in your peer group, or you dislike the idea of having a mentor because they're going to weigh in and have an opinion, this is you. Or if you are somebody that often avoids challenges because it's uncomfortable to try something you're not great at, P.S., this is you. In order to move past this, you really have to see that life and everything worth having is a work in progress. Even the most successful people in this life have to learn. And they make mistakes. This is where changed behavior is so important because it helps you to understand that flaws are okay and you can get better over time. The 4th category is the soloist, as they call it. The person who will not ask for help because they will feel like a phony. They are overly independent and refuse to ask for help. These are the people that if you are somebody that says, I don't need anyone's help, I can do it on my own. Or you firmly feel that in order to accomplish things, to be successful, you have to do it yourself. Y'all, this is you. There is no shame in asking for help when you need it, or asking for somebody to contribute to a project, or if you're in a leadership role, delegating tasks so that you don't feel overwhelmed. If you can't figure out how to solve a problem, there is somebody that can help you. Seek advice from those of your superiors or your support system. My God, there's an entire world of career coaching, all these coaches now. Don't burn yourself out trying to do everything yourself. The final category is what they call the expert. These people measure their worth based off of how much they can do and what they can do. They will never feel like they are enough. And if they are exposed for being inexperienced or unknowledgeable, they will unravel. And so if you're somebody that shies away from applying jobs because you don't have every single criteria, this is you. If you're constantly seeking out trainings or certifications, trying to acquire a higher level of skills just to succeed, this is you. If you're somebody that doesn't like to be called an expert, this is you. It's a great thing to want to learn or improve your skills, obviously, but if you just keep going after each certification or each degree, thinking that when I get this degree, then I'll be enough, you're never going to be enough because you're going to keep doing that. And so you have to start to practice in learning that acquiring a skill when you need it is great. But if your responsibilities change, rather than continuing to just keep hoarding knowledge, find comfort in the fact that you already have your inner expertise and you should share what you already have because you wouldn't be in the position you're in if you already weren't enough. Now, think about that. What category do you belong in or feel like you resonate the most? Because now we're going to talk about how do we transition out of that to embrace who we are so we can feel like our most empowered selves. The first thing that is so important, because this truly is cognitive distortion, is therapy. And if you're somebody that is currently rolling your eyes right now, your eyes don't need exercise. You need to listen. This is so important. There's an entire profession out there that can help you, help yourself, and teach you the tangible skills that you need to overcome this so that you can actually manage it, get to the root of why you have imposter syndrome, and then teach you how to heal from it and reframe the negative messages and thought patterns that keep popping up so that you can actually tap into who you really are and what you're meant to become. There's a lot of types of this too. You've got traditional talk therapy that's one-on-one. You've got group therapy where you're around other people. And then you have cognitive processing therapy, CPT. It's a form of cognitive behavioral therapy. And this one really aids people because it focuses on unhelpful beliefs. It helps you to be reevaluated. And then they teach you how to replace those thoughts with new, more accurate cognitions so you can actually heal from it. And so what's really important is a system for overcoming imposter syndrome. And if you're not ready to tap into therapy, it's always going to be my recommendation. But I'm going to give you 5 tangible tips today that you can implement right here, right now to start working on this. Number 1 is legit to open up. Find somebody in your life that you can genuinely trust, that's not going to shame you, that you're not going to feel guilt for sharing these feelings with, and express your self-doubt. Talk about the feelings you're having, why you feel like a fraud, why you feel alone. Share your beliefs and your struggles with them. This is so beneficial because they will provide you with honest, open feedback, and it can help you help yourself when you see others believing in your abilities. Number 2, and Gina, I wish there was a mirror in front of me because I should say this to myself. Accept positive feedback. Something that people deal with imposter syndrome have a very hard time taking compliments and praise. If you are that person, the next time somebody gives you a compliment, you're going to say 2 words: thank you, period. Don't turn it into a negative. Don't say, yeah, but this, or yeah, but that. Just say thank you, because that is truth. That is a positive comment. Internalize the feedback and take that and realize that that person is telling you you belong. Number 3, and this might seem woo-woo, but don't roll your eyes at me, okay? Start a journal, a log, something on your phone, whatever. Start some type of daily record when you receive compliments or regards to your achievements, and set aside a time every single week. I want you to read and review those, and I want you to let them resonate. And if you have to repeat them a few times, please do. Because you need to see and you need to keep reminding yourself that you are worthy, that you have value, that you are doing a good job. And you'll get that when you have those comments, that criticism, that constructive criticism. It's important. It doesn't define you, but it is a factor in healing. Number 4, learn to embrace positive self-talk. Now, something you will not catch me doing is looking in the mirror, repeating positive affirmations. Is it wrong? No, your girl just isn't there yet. But it's really important for you to remove yourself and the negative thought patterns and processes you're having. And a lot of these guys are in your your subconscious. These are the things, your thought patterns, your processes. You may be so used to being negative in your own headspace that you don't even realize you're saying these things. And so you really have to learn to reset the way you see setbacks, failures, and try to remind yourself that the whole process is the journey and what's beneficial. It's not the outcome. You're doing a good job. You're going to be faced with challenges, but what's incredible about life is overcoming those challenges. And the next one, and the last one, number 5, is to break outside of your comfort zone. Y'all, this one's my favorite. So many people that deal with imposter syndrome don't do things. They won't go places that are unfamiliar. They won't apply to jobs because they feel like they're a stretch. Don't let these feelings keep you from living the life you are meant to live. Don't allow the imposter syndrome to keep you stuck in a job you don't belong in a circle of friends you shouldn't be around, being unhappy and unfulfilled. You know what you do on a daily basis. You know your work value. You know truly how much you bring to the table. Most of us dealing with imposter syndrome are the table. Let's be honest. Take the time to reevaluate your life and learn to give yourself some freaking credit. If you're feeling like you don't deserve success and praise, it's important to really sit and take time with yourself to explore what is behind those beliefs. Imposter syndrome truly can keep you from ever achieving your highest potential, sadly. And if you allow it to linger for long enough, you will have missed years of your life. How do I know that? Because I am 6 months in to changing my entire life. 6 months ago, I was laying on that couch. 5 months ago, I wrote the list down. And 4 months ago, I wholeheartedly went into this transition of seeking the life I deserved instead of being in situations I was tolerated, and I am a different human being. I am happy. I am proud of my success. I am proud of my setbacks. I am embracing who I am as a whole and sharing that. I no longer am limiting myself. If I want to apply for something, apply for it. If I want to do something, I do it. If I don't want to be around certain people, I don't go. And something that was really helpful, and I talked about this in episode 1, and I hope that, this is 18 episodes later, you have done your homework, is that I turned my social media into a healthy, harmonious space. How did I do that? I unfollowed people I didn't want to follow. I got so tired of seeing people that genuinely didn't like me, following me, watching my stories every day. It would give me anxiety. So I unfollowed them because I didn't like seeing them pop up in my feed because it made me feel bad about myself. And then it made me have negative thought patterns about them. And the reality is, and something that I have come to terms with in the last 6 months, and especially the last 4, is that there's a lot of people who were in my life who aren't in my life anymore. And some of those people probably think I hate them. And I don't. I don't hate anybody. Like, if I don't hate the person that literally left me in my grandparents' driveway, y'all, when I was freaking 10, why would I hate somebody who I just didn't get along with? I wouldn't. And so for me, I am healed. I feel whole. And I know that I am because I have nothing but love for every single person who has come into my life. Even if we ended poorly, even if they did something to me, even if we're not friends, I don't think ill upon any of them, because after really seeing what I've been through, specifically the last 6 months, and just how on some days I was at my worst, why would I want to judge them if maybe the time that they were in my life was also the worst for them, So many people are dealing with things we have no idea for, and we only can assess what we know. And sometimes that assessment is falsified information because they weren't ready to tell the whole story. And so for me, I knew that I was becoming whole and healed because when I would hear their names or people would bring them up, I generally am like, how are they doing? Or if something positive happened, I'm so happy they're successful. So the other day I was talking to somebody I'm just not friends with anymore. There's seasons of life where you'll be friends with people for a reason or convenience. And just naturally some friends, they're just not meant to go the long haul with you. And somebody brought up somebody I used to be friends with. And I was so excited to hear how successful their business had been. And I genuinely was so happy for them. And I'm so glad they're doing well. I don't have to have them in my life to be happy for them, like just because they're not in my life, I don't have to hate them. I don't have to hold these weird feelings and like remember these terrible like periods of my life that they were a part of. No, like I realized why I was the way I was last year and then everything I went through. And I just think like, wow, like what if I was judged for the rest of my life by that version of myself? I would be so sad. And so for me, I just have blessed and released everything that didn't serve me. I hope to God, everybody that has been in my life that's no longer in my life is doing well. I hope they're successful. I hope that they're working hard and they get everything they want to achieve. And I hope that, if they were in my life at a time that wasn't good for them, that they have worked through that or they're better in an elevated situation. That's truly the beautiful thing when you work through imposter syndrome is you can help yourself and then help others. And so if you're somebody that is listening to this podcast and there is something you want to do, this is your takeaway for today's episode, and you've been holding back, whether it's something you want to post on social media or a job you want to apply for or a skill set you want to learn or just a hobby you want to take up, take it from somebody that was given a second chance at a time that was critical to their existence. This second chance, like I feel like my voice is shaking right now. This second chance is my opportunity to get the life I was working towards for all those years. But I know I deserve it now. So let me be the catalyst for you so you don't have to experience a traumatic accident to give you a second chance at life. And be the person that encourages you to tap in, to go after that thing you want to go after. And if you're scared, let me know. Share the post with me. If you're putting something out on social media, tell me. Be like, Gina, go check out my last reel. Like, I need support. I solely want to be a source of support, inspiration, and empowerment for other people. I don't want to be known for anything else. I want to be known for somebody that genuinely wants the best for everybody. And I want to be that person wholeheartedly. And so if you're scared, take it from somebody in 6 months who has gone from a nightmare of a life to a completely different life. And I have not stopped persevering. My life is so much better. And I literally just thank God and the universe every single day for the life I have now. But I ain't done yet, y'all. This is the turning point for me going over and going after that secret list that I have had for quite a long time of things that I wanted my life to be, achieve, and look like. And I'm going to embrace the whole journey and all of the missteps and setbacks. And I want you to do the same. Time is precious. We get one shot that we know of at this crazy life. And as hard as that is, and as difficult as it may be at times, there is so much to be grateful for. And there's so much potential in all of us. So let's tap into that potential. Let's give ourselves grace along the way. And when you see somebody putting themselves out there, for social media example, and you're one of these people, and you know I'm going to get preachy, that is watching somebody's stories, and you see their posts, and you're reading their posts, you're watching their videos, and you don't engage with them, please help them. Help them to solidify to know that they belong in that space, that they should be there, and support them. The best thing you can do for a small business, if you can invest in them, is to like, comment, and share. Takes 2 seconds. Like the post. Share an honest, genuine comment. Hell, go 2 steps further. Share the post. That is what drives small business social media engagement and helps them the most. Go out there and give it your best shot, y'all. Go after everything you want to achieve and take time along the way to be proud of what you accomplish instead of striving for unrealistic expectations and this idea of perfection. The perfection is in the journey, not in the end result. All right, y'all, stay tuned. And as always, we will chat soon.